was that? Finger airboarding isn't really a new thing. It's kind of been around for like a long time. There's even an old video on YouTube of finger airboarding, and I don't even know where this board came from, but people somehow have it. So I'm gonna make a fingerboard today, but it's gonna be made for the air. It is almost like that's the title of the video, and you clicked on the video because of that. So what is the difference from a fingerboard and a finger airboard? There's really not a whole lot that's different. The finger airboard doesn't need any trucks. Obviously it's in the air. You also don't even need grip tape because you have these little pegs that kind of just keep the board on your fingers. The board can still fall, but it just has a little bit of like tension on your fingers that keeps the board kind of up. The last thing is I'm gonna make the board quite a bit thinner. Most fingerboard decks are made from 5 pieces of veneer and sometimes even 7, but we're gonna make it quite a bit thinner, only using 3. I found these 2 pieces of veneer that are kind of exotic looking. I have no idea what these are, but we're gonna use them. I think I've used this stuff before. I'll try and even find the board. We got a lot of stuff back here. Here's the board. It always looks so wild how much a board just comes to life once you put the clear coat on. So I want to use this probably as a bottom ply, but first we got to cut out another piece. The grain is going the same way on both of these pieces, but we need one in the middle which is going the other way. I cut out the final piece, so we have 3 pieces now, and I don't know if this is gonna be a tutorial or not, but I'm kind of just gonna build it and you guys can see how to build it. I'm gonna keep it a little more raw just so you guys can see the process. I know you guys have probably seen it like a lot, but we're gonna do it again. I've had a ton of people just ask what type of glue I use, and I don't know what this exactly is, but it's polyurethane glue. It works pretty well. I've never had really any problems with it. I've seen some people just use like water-based glue, like almost like Elmer's type wood glue, but it kind of just makes boards fall apart. So definitely go with some sort of glue that has like an actual physical reaction happening and it's not just like air drying. This where the paper is. I don't even know what else is in here. I always put a little bit of tape on the bottom ply because sometimes, I don't know what it is, but when I put it in the mold, it'll just like crack in a random way. I always do just a little strip on all the edges and then just cut it off like this. If the veneer has any like weak spot to it, then the tape just like holds it together and it doesn't just split. It's only ever been the bottom ply that cracks for me, so I just don't do anything for the top. This is the Create Your Skate mold, and I'd honestly never had a problem with it, so I would definitely recommend it. If you ever see me looking like from a low angle, it's to see how much light is kind of like bouncing off the board, and you can get a really good idea of just how much glue is on the board. It's hard to just guess without seeing it, so get some light on the board and just see how much glue there is. You can see some of the glue kind of like seeped onto the ply, and I always just like wipe it off before I put it in the mold because this glue also expands. When the glue expands, it just makes like a bigger mess in the mold than you would kind of expect. It looks like just a tiny drop of glue, but it'll spread. Alright, the board is like halfway done. Airboards are pretty simple. There's not a whole lot to it. I still got to make the pegs for like your fingers to kind of like rest on. I'm just gonna call them bindings because like that's basically what they are. In the past when I've done this, I think I used like a 3D printing pen to like make the shape, but I also used a bottle cap before and that also worked pretty well. I do kind of need to like fit it on the board though, so I'm just gonna wait for this to cure and then we can do that. I will see you guys once the glue is cured and we can take it out of the mold. So the board has been in the mold for 2 days. This glue takes like 4 hours to dry, so we should be good. If I was just making a standard fingerboard, this would be the time to drill the holes, but we're making an airboard. We don't really need trucks, so I'm just gonna take it out. This is the step that you realize you either successfully made a fingerboard or you just completely wrecked your mold. If there's any little crack in a piece of veneer, all the glue just seeps out and pretty much just glues the mold together. So that's not what you want to see. That does not actually look too bad. The tape is still on the board and I could just sand that off, but I'm just gonna see if I can peel it off. So if I drilled holes in the board, I'd be able to tape this piece and then these 2 little like metal pieces just fit in the holes. From here, you can pretty much just trace the shape of the board and then you pretty much get the perfect fingerboard every time. Obviously for this, we don't have any holes drilled. So I want to just try and take another fingerboard deck and see if we can just like place it on and trace around it and maybe even just change the shape a little bit. This is a boxy deck from Deep Tuning and this is honestly probably my favorite deck that they make. All things considered, the shape actually isn't even too bad. So I'm going to use this and then probably just make it a little bit bigger. All right, you can kind of see the pencil lines. It's kind of the same color, so it's a little hard. I think this is pretty much as wide as I want the board, but I just want the nose and tail to be a little bit bigger. It's a little hard to see, but the shape of this kind of tapers off near the nose and tail, and I just want to make it a little more boxy. I ended up making the board just a little bit bigger, kind of in like all sizes. Because I'm using this out of a car window catching wind, I kind of wanted to have like as much surface area as possible so we can actually like feel the wind a little bit more, or else it's just gonna feel exactly like you just do this out the window without a board. So we're making it wider. So I'm gonna sand the board now. Okay, the board is sanded, but the edges are still kind of rough. There's also still some pencil marks that I want to sand off, so we're gonna do that now. Okay, the board is pretty much ready for clear coat, but before I do that, I want to drill a hole because we're gonna put a tether onto the board. It would kind of suck to make a board and then just lose it like the second you mess up. So I'm just gonna put a small hole at the tail of the board, and then we're gonna tie a rope to one of our fingers. So if we lose the board, we don't actually lose it. The clear coat just does magical things. Like, I don't know what's happening. So I still need to put a tether on the board so we don't just lose the board, and we also need to make the bindings. I think in the past I've used just the lid of a water bottle, so I'm gonna see if I can do that. I cut these out of the bottle cap and they look pretty good. I'm gonna take some super glue and then just glue these right onto the board, and that should work pretty well. I don't know why I keep using super glue. Every single time I use super glue, something goes wrong. Considering this is a water bottle lid, I'm kind of happy with how it turned out. I have some of this strong thread and I'm gonna use it for the tether. In the past when I do this, I always tie the tether, that's a hard word to say. I always tie the tether to my finger and it's kind of like uncomfortable. You're trying to focus on the board and then it's just like cutting into your finger. So the new idea is I'm gonna take a bigger rubber band and it's gonna go around my wrist, and then we can tie the tether to the thing on the thing, and then it'll be better. Okay, check this out. This is some crazy technology. Okay, we're using the board. We're having a good time. Oh no, the board fell. Where's the board? Oh, it's still, oh, look at that. Someone get me into NASA. This is brilliant. So, board done. Let's test it, I guess. I'm able to drive, but I'm gonna get someone else to drive because I think this could be considered distracted driving. I don't know for sure. Kind of hard to show on camera like how fun this actually is. I know having bindings is kind of cheating because you can just like float however you want. Just the pressure of the wind kind of like pushing on the board just has kind of a nice feel. Go ahead and drop a comment for if you would change anything about this, or if I should even like start selling these. The look of these is just sick. I appreciate every single person who watched this video, and I'll see you in my next one.